The sugar bowl sits 3 inches from my fingertips. Mom's kitchen counter, same chipped Formica from 1995. Saturday morning light cuts through her yellow curtains, casting everything in that pale Texas warmth that makes you forget how cold the world can be. I reach for the sugar. My sleeve pulls back. The scar runs from my wrist to my elbow. Deep groove in the flesh like someone carved a river through my arm and forgot to fill it back in. The skin is white and smooth now, but it catches the light wrong. Always has. Kyle sees it first. He's 35, but still laughs like he's 17. Same laugh that followed me through high school hallways. Same laugh that echoed in this kitchen when I came home from Iraq with more than just stories. Bet the army kicked you out fast. He lifts his coffee mug to his lips, eyes bright with that familiar cruelty that masquerades as humor. Mom's shoulders tense. She reaches for the creamer, makes that soft sound in her throat that means she's about to change the subject. I don't respond. Never do. The television murmurs in the background. Some morning show, playing to an empty living room. Mom keeps it on for company, she says. The voices make the house feel less hollow. I add sugar to my coffee. 1 spoon. 2. The metal clinks against ceramic. Lauren's doing fine, Mom says, her voice carrying that forced brightness she uses when she's trying to smooth over Kyle's edges. She helps veterans now. It's meaningful work. Kyle snorts. Right, playing therapist to other head cases. The coffee tastes bitter even with sugar. Then the television voice changes. Gets sharper, more official. This just in. We're going live to Washington where the annual Citizen Valor Award recipients are being announced. None of us are watching. Mom's wiping down counters that are already clean. Kyle's scrolling through his phone. I'm studying the wood grain on the kitchen table, tracing patterns with my eyes. This year's recipient for Outstanding Civilian Leadership in Veteran Services is... The pause stretches. Television pause. Dramatic pause. Lauren Brooks of Columbus, Georgia. My face fills the screen. Professional headshot from the rehab center website. My hair is pulled back. I'm wearing the blue blazer that makes me look competent, trustworthy. The kind of woman who gets things done quietly. The room goes silent. Kyle's coffee mug slips from his fingers. It doesn't shatter, just thuds against the table and rolls toward the edge. Coffee spreads across the surface like a slow brown stain. Mom's dish rag stops moving. I don't blink. The television keeps talking. Something about transformative programs. Something about innovative approaches to veteran mental health. Something about a woman who's changed lives through service. Kyle's mouth opens, closes, opens again. That's you. I set down my coffee cup. The sound is precise, controlled. Like everything else I do. Yes. On the screen, they're showing footage from the rehab center. Veterans in wheelchairs working through physical therapy. Support groups sitting in circles. A clip of me speaking at a conference, gesturing toward a presentation slide about moral injury. My voice comes through the television speakers, clear and steady. We don't fix broken soldiers. We help whole people remember who they were before the world told them they were damaged. Kyle stares at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. You never said, you never asked. Mom's hand covers her mouth. Her eyes are wide, searching my face like she's seeing me for the first time. The broadcast continues. They mention the White House ceremony, the personal invitation from the president, the recognition of my work with over 300 veterans who've gone through my program. Kyle's phone buzzes, then buzzes again, then doesn't stop buzzing. I stand up. The chair doesn't scrape. I've learned to move without making noise. I should go. Lauren, wait. Mom's voice cracks. I didn't know. Why didn't you tell us? I look at her, then at Kyle, who's still staring at the television like it's speaking a foreign language. Because, I say, silence was easier than explaining. I walk toward the door. Behind me, Kyle's phone keeps buzzing. The television keeps talking about the woman who transformed veteran care through quiet innovation. My name is Lauren Brooks, oldest daughter, forgotten veteran, the one they dismissed quietly until silence turned into a broadcast. The drive home gives me 23 minutes to remember how I became invisible. It started before I was born. Kyle arrived 3 years later, but somehow he'd always been the one they were waiting for. The golden boy with the easy smile and the report cards that got taped to the refrigerator. The one who could make Dad laugh until his sides hurt, Who could charm Mom into letting him stay up past bedtime? I was the quiet one. The one who read books at family gatherings while Kyle entertained the relatives. The one who got good grades, but never the kind that made anyone call the neighbors. Lauren's so responsible, they'd say. Like responsible was a consolation prize. Kyle played football. I ran track. Kyle's games packed the bleachers. My races happened on Saturday mornings when everyone was still sleeping off Friday night. Kyle got into state on a partial scholarship. I got into state on full academic. But by then they'd already hung his acceptance letter on the refrigerator. Mine went in the junk drawer with the takeout menus. I was 19 when I walked into the recruitment office. The sergeant behind the desk had kind eyes and a firm handshake. She asked me why I wanted to serve. I want to matter, I said. She nodded like she understood. I came home with the papers. Dad was watching television. Mom was folding laundry. Kyle was on the couch scrolling through his phone. I enlisted, I said. Dad looked up from his show. In what? The Army. Mom's hands stilled on Kyle's t-shirt. Oh, honey, it's just a phase. You'll change your mind, Kyle laughed. What are you going to do, march around and yell at people? I'm going to serve my country. Right. Kyle's attention was already back on his phone. Wake me up when you're done playing soldier. There was no party, no proud announcements to the relatives. Just Mom asking if I was sure about this. Her voice heavy with disappointment, like I'd chosen to drop out of college instead of defending the nation. I left for basic training on a Tuesday. Kyle didn't wake up to say goodbye. The Army taught me things my family never did. That quiet strength had value. That being responsible meant people lived or died based on your decisions. That some battles are worth fighting even when no one's watching. I deployed to Iraq with the 82nd Airborne. We ran convoy security, moving supplies between forward operating bases. The roads were rivers of dust and hidden death. Every pothole could be a bomb. Every pile of garbage could be your last sight. Staff Sergeant Martinez was 24, 2 years older than me. He had a wife back home and a baby daughter whose pictures he kept in his helmet. He always volunteered for the most dangerous positions. Somebody's got to do it, he'd say. Might as well be me. The IED hit us on a Thursday. Route Irish, 3 miles outside Baghdad. The explosion flipped our vehicle, turned the world into a carnival ride of metal and fire and screaming. I was unconscious for 18 minutes. When I came to, Martinez was lying across me, his body shielding me from the shrapnel that had torn through the vehicle. Blood ran from his mouth. His eyes were open but seeing nothing. He'd thrown himself on top of me when the blast hit. Saved my life with his body. The medics said I was lucky. Broken ribs concussion and a piece of metal that carved through my left forearm like a hot knife through butter. Lucky to be alive. I came home with a Purple Heart and dreams that woke me up screaming. The dreams where Martinez was still alive, still bleeding, still asking me why I let him die. Kyle was waiting at the airport. Mom cried when she saw me. Dad shook my hand like I was a stranger. You look different, Mom said. I was different. I flinched at loud noises. I couldn't sleep without checking the locks twice. I saw threats in every shadow, enemies in every crowd. The therapist at the VA was a patient woman named Dr. Sullivan. She said I had post-traumatic stress disorder, like it was a diagnosis instead of a life sentence. It's treatable, she said. You can get better. I went to therapy twice a week, learned breathing exercises, practiced grounding techniques, slowly, carefully began to rebuild the parts of myself that had been shattered in the desert. Kyle found it hilarious. You gonna snap and flip the table this year, Sarge? He said at Thanksgiving dinner, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Maybe we should hide the knives. The table went quiet. Dad cleared his throat. Mom's fork clinked against her plate. Kyle? She said, her voice carrying that familiar warning tone. What, I'm just saying. She's been acting weird since she got back. She's been through a lot, Mom said. So has everyone. You don't see me crying about it. I set down my fork, folded my napkin, stood up. Where are you going? Mom asked. Home. Lauren, don't. He doesn't mean it. That's just how he jokes. I looked at Kyle. He was grinning, proud of himself for getting a reaction. I know exactly what he means, I said. I drove home to my empty apartment and ate leftover Chinese food while watching old movies. It was the best Thanksgiving I'd had in years. That's when I learned the most important lesson of all silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. I stopped explaining, stopped defending, stopped expecting them to understand what they'd never experienced. I got a job at the Veteran Rehabilitation Center, found my purpose in helping other broken soldiers learn to be whole again. And for 15 years, I lived quietly, invisible again, but by choice this time. Until a television broadcast changed everything. The Phoenix Veterans Rehabilitation Center sits on 12 acres outside Columbus, Georgia, 20 minutes from Fort Benning. Red brick buildings connected by covered walkways designed to feel like a campus instead of a hospital. The kind of place where healing happens slowly, quietly, away from the noise of the world. I've worked here for 8 years, Director of Integrated Recovery Programs. The title means I design treatment plans for veterans who come to us broken in ways that don't show up on X-rays. My office overlooks the physical therapy wing. Through the window, I can see Jackson working with Maria, a former helicopter mechanic, who lost her left leg to an IED outside Kandahar. Maria's learning to walk again, but the real work isn't happening in her muscles. It's happening in her mind, where she's rebuilding the belief that she's still whole. I understand that work. Most treatment programs separate physical and mental recovery. Keep the body therapists in one building, the counselors in another. Like trauma can be divided into neat categories addressed with separate strategies. I learned different. Trauma lives in the space between mind and body. You can't heal one without the other. My methods aren't taught in textbooks. They're built from experience. From understanding what it feels like when your own body becomes a stranger, when your own mind becomes an enemy. I teach veterans to breathe through flashbacks. Not the clinical breathing exercises from manuals, but the kind of breathing that actually works when you're convinced you're dying. I show them how to ground themselves using physical sensations, the texture of fabric, the temperature of water, the weight of objects in their hands. I teach them that hypervigilance isn't madness. It's a survival mechanism that served them well in combat zones. The goal isn't to eliminate it, but to give it boundaries. To teach their nervous systems the difference between Fallujah and a grocery store. Most importantly, I teach them that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to carry the weight without letting it crush you. The program has a 93% success rate. Veterans who complete it return to work, to families, to lives they thought were lost forever. The VA sends us their most challenging cases, the ones other programs couldn't help. 3 months ago, Dr. Peterson, the center's chief psychologist, knocked on my office door. "Lauren, I need to tell you something." She looked nervous, which was unusual. Dr. Peterson had served 2 tours as a Navy psychologist. Not much made her nervous anymore. "I nominated you for the Citizen Valor Award." I set down my pen. "You what?" "The application deadline was last month. I couldn't let it pass. What you've built here, what you've done for these veterans, the world needs to know. I didn't ask for recognition. That's exactly why you deserve it." She left a folder on my desk. Inside were letters from veterans I'd worked with, testimonials from colleagues, statistics about program outcomes, a comprehensive portfolio of work I'd never thought to document, because the work itself was reward enough. I filed the folder in my desk drawer and forgot about it. Until yesterday, when my name filled a television screen and changed everything. The irony isn't lost on me. I've spent years helping veterans find their voices, encouraging them to speak their truth, to reclaim their stories from the trauma that tried to rewrite them. But my own story that I kept locked away. There was one exception. Last spring, the Columbus TEDx organizers asked me to speak about moral injury in veteran populations. I said yes because the message mattered, even if sharing it terrified me. The talk was called "The Weight of What We Carry." I spoke about invisible wounds, about the difference between guilt and shame, about how healing happens in community, not isolation. I mentioned my own experience briefly clinically. As a veteran who struggled with reintegration, nothing specific, nothing that would open doors I'd worked years to close. The video got 300 views in 6 months, mostly colleagues and veterans from our program. I was relieved by its obscurity, but yesterday's broadcast changed that equation. Within hours of the CNN announcement, the TEDx video had 30,000 views. By evening, it was trending on LinkedIn. Comments flooded in from veterans around the country sharing their own stories, thanking me for giving language to experiences they'd carried alone. My phone buzzed constantly. Interview requests from podcasts, newspapers, magazines. A literary agent wanted to discuss a book deal. A movie producer left 3 voicemails. I turned off my phone and went for a walk around the center grounds. In the garden behind the main building, I found Williams sitting on a bench. He's 26 Iraq veteran struggling with survivor's guilt after losing his entire squad in a roadside bombing. He's been with us for 2 months. Saw you on the news, he said. I sat down beside him. What did you think? Thought it was about time. We sat in comfortable silence watching the sun set behind the pine trees. The air smelled like jasmine and possibility. Dr. Brooks. Yeah, thank you for showing us it's possible. That's when I understood. My story wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to every veteran who'd been dismissed, diminished, told their pain didn't matter. The past I'd kept buried wasn't going to stay that way, but maybe that was okay. Maybe some stories are too important to keep quiet. Back in Mom's kitchen, the coffee has gone cold. The brown stain from Kyle's spilled mug spreads across the table like a slow accusation. On the television, they're still talking about me, about the award, about the White House ceremony next month. Kyle's mouth opens and closes like a fish pulled from water. His phone lies forgotten on the counter, still buzzing with notifications he hasn't checked. Wait, his voice cracks on the word. You're that Lauren Brooks. The question hangs in the air between us. Mom's dish towel dangles from her hand, forgotten. Her eyes move from the television screen to my face and back again, like she's trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. The one they interviewed on CNN last month. Kyle continues, his voice gaining strength as shock transforms into something else. Something that looks like calculation. The woman who revolutionized veteran care. I don't answer. There's nothing to explain that the television hasn't already made clear. Holy shit, Kyle runs his hands through his hair. This is incredible. Do you know what this means? I know exactly what it means. It means the life I built in careful silence is about to become public property. It means reporters will dig into my past, my family, my reasons for staying quiet all these years. It means Kyle will find a way to make this about him. Lauren, Mom's voice is barely a whisper. Why didn't you tell us? The question assumes I owed them the information, that my accomplishments belong to them simply because we share DNA. That 15 years of dismissal and mockery could be erased by sudden interest, sparked by external validation. I pick up my purse from the counter, check my phone. 17 missed calls already, numbers I don't recognize, area codes from New York, Washington, Los Angeles. I need to go. Wait. Kyle jumps up from his chair, suddenly animated. This is huge. We need to talk about this. We need to figure out how to handle the media attention. We? As if he's been part of my journey all along. As if his cruelty was just a misunderstanding, his mockery just brotherly teasing, that I was too sensitive to appreciate. There's nothing to figure out. Are you kidding? Do you have any idea how many people are going to want to interview you? This could be life-changing. He's right about that part. It will be life-changing. Just not in the way he means. I walk toward the door. Behind me, I hear Mom's chair scrape against the linoleum. Her footsteps follow me into the hallway. Lauren, please. I know we haven't always. I know I should have. I turn to face her. She looks older than she did an hour ago. The lines around her eyes seem deeper, carved by the weight of recognition that she failed to see what was right in front of her. You should have what Mom supported you, believed in you, stopped him when he said those things. The admission hangs between us. Too little, too late, but honest in a way she's never been before. Yes, I say, you should have. I open the front door. The Texas heat hits my face like a wall. Across the street, Mrs. Patterson is watering her flower beds. She waves the same casual wave she's given me for 20 years. But as I walk toward my car, I hear quick footsteps behind me. A voice calls out, "Excuse me," I turn. It's Emma, the teenage girl who lives 2 houses down. She's maybe 16, wearing shorts and a University of Texas t-shirt. I've watched her grow up from a distance, seen her leave for school each morning, come home with friends, learn to drive in her family's driveway. You're the woman from the news, right? Her voice carries excitement and something else. Respect, maybe. You saved those soldiers. The question is simple but loaded with assumptions. In her mind, heroism is straightforward. Good people save lives, bad people don't. The complexity of survival, of moral injury, of carrying the weight of both loss and gratitude. Those nuances don't fit in television soundbites. I could correct her. Explain that I didn't save anyone, that a good man died saving me, that heroism and survival aren't the same thing. Instead, I nod. That's so cool, she says. My cousin's in the Marines. He's deploying next month. There's pride in her voice, but worry too. The kind of worry that comes from understanding that young men and women go to war and sometimes come back changed. Sometimes they don't come back at all. Tell him to take care of himself, I say, and to remember that asking for help isn't weakness. She nods solemnly, like I've shared a secret worth keeping. I drive home with the radio off, windows down, letting the wind carry away the noise of the morning. My phone buzzes constantly from the passenger seat. Each notification represents someone who wants something from me. My story, my time, my trauma repackaged for public consumption. By the time I reach my apartment, there are 43 missed calls and 67 text messages. Interview requests from morning shows, podcasts, newspapers. A documentary filmmaker wants to follow my inspiring journey. A publisher wants to discuss a memoir deal. I turn off my phone and sit in the quiet of my living room. For 15 years, I controlled my narrative by not sharing it. Now the story belongs to the world, and I have to decide what to do with that reality. Outside my window, the sun sets behind the pine trees. The same trees I've watched from the same spot for 8 years. But everything else has changed. The invisible daughter is invisible no more. It takes Kyle exactly 18 hours to find his angle. I'm in my office Monday morning trying to focus on treatment plans for 3 new veterans joining our program this week, when Dr. Peterson knocks on my door. Lauren, have you seen this? She's holding her phone screen facing me. LinkedIn is open to a post with Kyle's smiling headshot in the corner. The post has been shared 200 times. The comments stretch down the screen like a river of validation. I read his words. Yesterday, I watched my sister Lauren Brooks receive the Citizen Valor Award on live television. Proud of my sister's courage. A quiet hero who has transformed hundreds of lives through her innovative veteran rehabilitation programs. Humbled to be her brother and witness to her incredible journey. Veteran advocate. Proud brother, shock quiet hero. The post is accompanied by a photo I've never seen before. Kyle and me at some family gathering, probably Christmas 3 years ago. He's got his arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling. Except I remember that moment. He'd just finished telling everyone at the dinner table about his latest promotion, how his tech company was expanding into veteran hiring initiatives. I was smiling because Mom had asked me to try to look happy for the family photo. In the comments, people are praising Kyle for his support, for being such a loving brother, for raising awareness about veteran issues. When did he post this, I ask. Saturday night. It went viral Sunday morning. Saturday night. Less than 12 hours after he'd mocked my scars and called my colleagues head cases. I scroll through the comments, hundreds of people congratulating Kyle on having such an amazing sister, thanking him for sharing her story, asking if he's involved in veteran advocacy too. And Kyle is responding to every comment, graciously accepting praise for being supportive, humble bragging about growing up with such an inspiring sibling, building a narrative where he's been my champion all along. My phone buzzes. Text from Kyle. Hope you don't mind the post. Thought the world should know how proud I am of you. Getting lots of interview requests. Happy to help manage media if you want. I set the phone down without responding. By Tuesday, Kyle's LinkedIn post has been shared 5,000 times. A podcast called Mental Health Warriors reaches out to him directly asking if he'd like to discuss growing up with a veteran sister and supporting family members through PTSD recovery. He says yes. I find out Wednesday morning when my colleague Marcus stops by my office. Your brother's on a podcast, he says, talking about veteran mental health. Thought you should know. I pull up the episode on my computer. Supporting Our Heroes. A Brother's Perspective features Kyle speaking with host Jennifer Walsh about the challenges families face when veterans return home. His voice fills my office warm and earnest. You know Jennifer, when Lauren came back from Iraq, we could all see she was struggling. But she's always been this incredibly strong person, even as a kid. She didn't want to burden us with her pain. That must have been difficult for you as her brother. It was heartbreaking, but I made sure she knew I was there for her. Sometimes you have to be patient with veterans, they're carrying invisible wounds. As a family, we had to learn how to create a safe space for her healing. I paused the audio. The The lies are so smooth, so believable. Kyle sounds like the loving brother he never was, rewriting history with the confidence of someone who knows I won't publicly contradict him. I force myself to keep listening. Lauren's work now with other veterans comes from that lived experience. She understands trauma because she's walked through it. And having family support made all the difference in her recovery. What advice would you give other families dealing with similar situations? Patience, understanding, and recognizing that healing isn't linear. There were times when Lauren struggled with her temper after coming back. That's normal for veterans dealing with readjustment. I helped keep her grounded, reminded her of who she was before the war changed her. The words hit me like a physical blow. Struggled with her temper. The phrase implies violence, instability, danger. It suggests I was volatile, unpredictable, a threat that needed managing. It's not true, but it doesn't matter. Truth is irrelevant when the lie serves a better story. By Thursday, a fan account called Veteran Support has clipped that specific quote and shared it across social media platforms. The caption reads, "Even heroes struggle. Thank God for supportive families." PTSD, Veteran Support, RARS, Mental Health Matters. The clip gets 50,000 views in 6 hours. My phone floods with direct messages on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Most are supportive, but others carry an undertone of concern. Is it true you had anger issues? So brave of you to overcome violent tendencies. My brother has PTSD too. Did you ever hurt anyone during episodes? How did your family cope with your breakdowns? Each message lands like a small cut. Individually insignificant, collectively devastating. The narrative Kyle has crafted is insidious in its effectiveness. He hasn't called me crazy or dangerous. He's positioned himself as the loving brother who helped a struggling veteran overcome her demons. He gets credit for being supportive while simultaneously painting me as someone who needed support because I was unstable. It's masterful gaslighting wrapped in mental health advocacy. Friday morning, I get a call from the Citizen Valor Award Committee. The voice on the other end is apologetic but firm. "Ms. Brooks, we've received some inquiries about your brother's recent media appearances. Nothing that changes our decision, of course, but we wanted to give you a heads up that there might be additional scrutiny leading up to the ceremony." After I hang up, I sit in my office staring out the window at veterans working through their recovery. These are people rebuilding their lives after trauma, learning to trust themselves again, fighting against stigma and misunderstanding. Kyle has weaponized that stigma against me, used society's fear of veteran mental health to diminish my accomplishments while elevating his own profile. The cruelest part isn't just that he's lying about being supportive, it's that he's finally proud of me now. Proud because my pain has become profitable for him. For 15 years, I carried the weight of his mockery in silence. Now I have to decide whether to carry the weight of his lies the same way. The phone rings. Another interview request, probably for Kyle. I let it go to voicemail. The email arrives on Friday at 3:47 p.m., just as I'm preparing to leave for the weekend. The sender is Jessica Martinez, maiden name Thompson, a girl I knew peripherally in high school. We were never close, just two quiet kids who occasionally sat at the same lunch table when all the popular spots were taken. The subject line reads, "Something you need to see." I almost delete it. My inbox has been a war zone all week, filled with interview requests, speaking opportunities, and well-meaning messages from people who want to share their own veteran stories. I've stopped reading most of them. But something about Jessica's name stops me. I remember her as careful, thoughtful, not the type to send dramatic emails without cause. I click open. "Hi, Lauren. I hope you remember me from Jefferson High. I work in public relations now for a nonprofit in Austin. I've been following the news about your award, and I'm so proud of what you've accomplished. I need to share something with you that I discovered by accident. I was doing research for a client about veteran recognition programs, and I came across some old emails in a public records request. The attached file contains correspondence from 2017 between Kyle and our high school alumni board. I thought you should see it. I'm sorry to be the bearer of difficult news, but after what I've seen him saying in interviews this week, I couldn't stay silent. With respect and solidarity, Jessica." The attachment is a PDF titled Jefferson High Alumni Board Communications 2017. I hesitate before opening it. Something in my chest tightens the way it does before you learn information that changes everything. The first page is an email thread. Kyle's name appears in the sender field, dated March 15, 2017. The subject line, Request for Privacy, Lauren Brooks Military Recognition. I read his words, Dear Alumni Board members, I'm writing on behalf of my sister Lauren Brooks' class of 2004 regarding her inclusion on the military honor roll displayed in the main hallway. Lauren has specifically asked to be removed from this recognition. As many of you know, Lauren served in Iraq and returned with significant challenges related to her transition back to civilian life. She's had a difficult adjustment period and has expressed that public recognition of her military service causes her distress and triggers related to her combat experience. Out of respect for her privacy and mental health, she's requested that her name and service record be quietly removed from the display. She wants to focus on her healing without the reminder of her time overseas. I hope you'll understand and honor this request. Lauren is a private person who values her anonymity during this challenging period. Please let me know if you need any additional information. As her brother and closest family contact, I'm happy to facilitate any necessary communications. Best regards, Kyle Brooks Alumni Board, PR Representative. The words blur as I read them a second time, then a third. I never made that request. I didn't even know there was a military honor roll at Jefferson High. The response from the Alumni Board president, dated the same day, is swift and sympathetic. Kyle, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We completely understand Lauren's need for privacy during her recovery. We'll have her name removed from the display immediately. Please give her our best wishes for her healing journey. But the emails don't stop there. 3 days later, Kyle sends a follow-up. Thank you for your understanding regarding Lauren's request. I wanted to follow up on something that occurred to me after our last correspondence. Given Lauren's current state and her desire for privacy, I think it would be best if any future media inquiries or recognition requests regarding her military service were directed through me. As I mentioned, she's struggling with readjustment, and direct contact from outside parties tends to be overwhelming for her. I've taken on the role of family spokesperson for matters related to Lauren's service. I can ensure that any legitimate requests are handled appropriately while protecting her mental health and privacy. If anyone contacts the school seeking information about Lauren or wanting to interview her about her military experience, please feel free to provide them with my contact information instead. I can determine what level of engagement, if any, would be appropriate for her current condition. This arrangement will help us maintain the privacy she needs, while ensuring that any important opportunities aren't missed due to miscommunication. Thanks again for your cooperation, Kyle. The board president's response is equally accommodating. Absolutely, Kyle. We'll update our records to reflect that you're the appropriate contact for any inquiries regarding Lauren. Thank you for looking out for your sister during such a difficult time. I close the laptop and walk to my kitchen window. Outside, the evening light filters through the pine trees, casting long shadows across the parking lot. Everything looks the same, but the foundation of my understanding has shifted. Kyle didn't just mock my service or dismiss my struggles. He systematically erased me from public recognition, then positioned himself as my guardian and spokesperson. He told an entire institution that I was too damaged to speak for myself, too fragile to handle acknowledgement of my own accomplishments. And he did it all while I was building the very program that would eventually earn me national recognition. That was the year I was promoted to Director of Integrated Recovery Programs, the year I presented my first paper at the National Conference on Veteran Mental Health, the year I was finding my voice and my purpose. While I was helping other veterans reclaim their agency, Kyle was convincing our hometown that I had none. The cruelest part is how reasonable he made it sound, how concerned and protective. He wrapped his erasure of me in the language of mental health advocacy, making himself the hero of a story where I was too broken to be my own protagonist. I think about all the opportunities that might have come through Jefferson High. Speaking requests from alumni, working in veteran affairs, connections with other military families, recognition that could have amplified the work I was doing years before it gained national attention. Kyle stole those possibilities before I even knew they existed. My phone buzzes. A text from Kyle. Saw the podcast is getting great feedback. Happy to do more media if it helps raise awareness for your work. We make a good team. A good team, as if we've been collaborating all along. As if his theft of my agency was partnership. His lies about my instability were support. His rewriting of history was teamwork. I screenshot his text and add it to the folder I'm building on my desktop. Evidence of a pattern that stretches back years. Documentation of how Kyle has consistently positioned himself as my narrator while silencing my own voice. The invisible daughter wasn't invisible by accident. She was made invisible by someone who needed her to disappear so he could control what remained. But some disappearances aren't permanent. Some stories demand to be told by the people who lived them. I open my laptop and begin typing a reply to Jessica. Thank you for sending this. Would you be willing to go on record about finding these emails? Because Kyle made one crucial mistake in his years of narrative control. He left evidence. The truth spreads faster than Kyle's lies ever did. Jessica goes on record Monday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, a Reddit user named Veteran Advocate 47 posts screenshots of the entire email chain on Eat Ahat's veterans with the title, "So-called supportive brother of Citizen Valor Award winner," actually erased her from recognition for years. The post gets 15,000 upvotes in 6 hours. The comment section becomes a battlefield. Veterans sharing their own stories of family members who dismissed their service, then tried to claim credit when recognition came. Others pointing out the calculated nature of Kyle's deception, how he waited until Lauren achieved national prominence before positioning himself as her champion. One comment posted by a user called IraqVet2009 gets over 2,000 upvotes. This is gaslighting 101. Erase someone, then rewrite history to make yourself the hero. Classic narcissistic playbook. By Wednesday, the screenshots have migrated to Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Someone creates the hashtag #LetLaurenSpeak, and it starts trending within hours. Thursday morning, Sarah Mitchell from Military Times calls my office. Ms. Brooks, I'm working on a story about family dynamics and veteran recognition. I've seen the documentation of your brother's actions. Would you like to comment? For a moment, I consider saying no. Staying silent has been my default for so long, it feels safer than speaking truth that might detonate in ways I can't control. But then I think about William sitting in the garden thanking me for showing him it was possible to heal. About Maria learning to walk again. About the 300 veterans who've gone through our program and found their voices again. Yes, I say, I'd like to comment. The Military Times article publishes Friday morning. Sarah Mitchell's reporting is thorough, fair, and devastating. She interviews Jessica about finding the emails. She speaks with veterans advocates about the broader issue of family members co-opting military narratives. She includes responses from several of Kyle's recent podcast hosts, who expressed concern about being misled. Most importantly, she lets me tell my own story. The quotes she uses are carefully chosen. My brother spent years telling people I was too damaged to speak for myself, then claimed credit for helping me heal from damage he actively inflicted. The irony is that while he was erasing me from recognition, I was building programs that have helped hundreds of veterans reclaim their own voices. This isn't just about family dysfunction. It's about who gets to control veteran narratives and how easily society accepts the word of family members over the veterans themselves. The article goes viral immediately. Within hours, our Let Lauren Speak is trending nationally. Kyle's LinkedIn post, once filled with congratulatory comments, becomes a graveyard of deleted responses and critical replies. By Friday afternoon, Kyle's tech company issues a quiet statement. We're reviewing recent information about one of our employees, and will respond appropriately after our investigation is complete. The podcast Mental Health Warriors removes Kyle's episode and posts an apology. We were deceived about the nature of our guest's relationship with his sister. We apologize to Ms. Brooks and our listeners for amplifying false information. 3 other podcasts that had booked Kyle for upcoming appearances quietly cancel. Saturday evening, my phone rings. Mom's name appears on the screen. I almost don't answer, but something in the timing feels different. Urgent. Lauren, her voice is shaking. I've been reading everything, all the articles, all the comments. I didn't know about the emails. I wait. Let her fill the silence. I didn't stop him. The words come out broken, jagged. All those years when he said those things about you, when he made those jokes. I thought staying neutral was better. I thought it would blow over, but it wasn't better. I failed you. The admission hangs in the air between us. Not an excuse, not a justification. Just truth finally spoken. Yes, I say, You did. I know I can't undo it. I know sorry isn't enough. But I need you to know that I see it now. I see what he did, what I let him do. Sunday morning, she drives to Columbus, shows up at the rehabilitation center during my weekend rounds, looking smaller than I've seen her since Dad's funeral. I brought something, she says. She pulls out a faded photograph from her purse. I'm 9 years old wearing a too big Army Halloween costume that we borrowed from our neighbor's son. The helmet slides down over my eyes, and I'm grinning despite having to push it back to see the camera. You were already brave back then, Mom says, her voice barely a whisper. I just didn't see it. I was so focused on Kyle, on making sure he felt special, that I forgot you were special too. She sets the photo on my desk. This was taken 2 weeks before you announced you wanted to join the Army when you grew up. Remember, you said it at dinner and Kyle laughed. Dad said girls couldn't be real soldiers. I should have told him he was wrong. I should have told you that you could be anything. I pick up the photograph. The little girl in the oversized uniform looks determined despite the comedic proportions. Like she knew something the adults didn't. I can't give you back those years, Mom continues. Can't undo the silence when I should have spoken up. But I want you to know that I'm proud of you. Not because the television told me to be. I'm proud because you became exactly who you said you'd be when you were 9 years old. She stands to leave, then pauses at the door. He's not talking to reporters anymore, in case you were wondering. After she's gone, I sit in my office holding the photograph. Outside, veterans are working through their recovery, learning to trust their own voices again, rebuilding lives that trauma tried to destroy. The little girl in the Army costume understood something that took me 30 years to remember. Some fights are worth having even when you have to fight them alone. But maybe this time, I won't have to. The White House lawn stretches before me like a green sea of possibility. 300 folding chairs arranged in perfect rows, each one occupied by someone who understands what service means. Veterans, military families, government officials, advocates who've spent their lives fighting for the invisible wounded. The morning air carries the weight of history and the scent of magnolia blossoms. Camera crews position themselves along the periphery, their lenses trained on the podium where I'll stand in 20 minutes to accept an award I never sought, but somehow always deserved. I'm wearing the same blue blazer from my headshot, the one that makes me look competent and trustworthy. Beneath it, a simple white blouse covers the scar on my forearm, not hiding it exactly, just choosing when and how to reveal it. Behind me, the president's advance team makes final adjustments to the microphone. Someone tests the sound system. Testing 1, 2, 3. The words echo across the lawn and disappear into the October sky. I scan the crowd from my position in the holding area. Veterans from every era: Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea. Some in dress uniforms, others in civilian clothes that can't quite hide their military bearing. All of them carrying stories that deserve to be heard. That's when I see him. Kyle stands near the back, wearing a navy suit I don't recognize. His hair is perfectly styled, his expression carefully composed. He's scanning the crowd too, probably looking for cameras for opportunities to position himself in frame when the ceremony begins. He starts walking toward the VIP section, flashing a smile at the security guard stationed there. I watch him gesture toward me, explaining his relationship, requesting access to the family area. The guard speaks into his radio, listens to the response, shakes his head politely but firmly. Kyle's face flickers with confusion, then irritation. He tries again, pulling out his phone to show something, probably the LinkedIn post or a photo of us together. The guard doesn't waver. He points toward the general seating area, his message clear: you can watch from there. Kyle's composure cracks for just a moment. I see the flash of anger, the entitlement that expected special treatment because of our shared DNA. Then he recovers, forces a smile, and retreats to the back of the crowd. He doesn't know that I requested the security restriction, that I specifically asked for no family access to the VIP area without my explicit approval, that I wanted to control who stood beside me during this moment after years of having no control at all. Ms. Brooks, a young aide, appears at my elbow. We're ready for you. I walk toward the podium. Each step feels deliberate, measured. Behind me, the Marine Corps band begins playing the Star-Spangled Banner. 300 people rise to their feet, hands over hearts, voices joining in the familiar words. When the music ends, Secretary of Veterans Affairs Robert Chen steps to the microphone. His introduction is warm, comprehensive, touching on the innovation of my programs, the lives transformed, the quiet revolution I've led in veteran care. The Citizen Valor Award, he says, recognizes civilians whose extraordinary service has made a lasting impact on the veteran community. This year's recipient embodies the very best of that tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Lauren Brooks. Applause rolls across the lawn like thunder. I walk to the podium, accept the Crystal Award from the secretary, and turn to face the crowd. The cameras, the nation watching on live television. Kyle is visible in the back clapping with everyone else, his smile bright and proud for anyone recording him. I set the award on the podium and adjust the microphone. The crowd settles into expectant silence. Thank you, I begin, my voice carrying clearly across the lawn. I'm honored to receive this recognition not for myself, but for the 300 veterans who trusted me to help them find their voices again. I pause, letting the words settle. For some of us, silence isn't avoidance, it's survival. A few heads nod in the audience. Veterans who understand the weight of words, unsaid stories untold. I spent 15 years in silence. Not because I was ashamed of my service, but because speaking truth required energy I needed for healing. For building something meaningful from the broken pieces of what I brought home from war. My hand moves to my left sleeve. Slowly, deliberately, I roll it up. The scar catches the morning light, white and prominent against my skin. They laughed at my scars, but scars don't mean weakness. They mean you stayed. The applause is immediate, sustained. Veterans in the audience understand. They carry their own scars, visible and invisible proof of battles fought and survived. When the applause fades, I reach into my jacket pocket, pull out a folded piece of paper, the printout of Kyle's 2017 email, the one that erased me from recognition while I was building my life's work. Someone once told a lie in my name, I say, holding up the paper so the cameras can see it. Told an entire institution that I was too damaged to speak for myself, too fragile to handle recognition of my own service, too broken to deserve acknowledgement. Kyle's face has gone pale in the back of the crowd. He's looking around, probably calculating exit strategies, wondering if anyone will notice if he slips away. That person convinced others that I needed to be protected from my own accomplishments, that my trauma disqualified me from agency, from dignity, from the right to control my own narrative. I fold the paper and put it back in my pocket. But I'm here to speak for myself, finally. The crowd erupts, not polite ceremony applause, but genuine sustained celebration. Veterans rise to their feet, joined by family members, officials, advocates. The sound builds and echoes off the White House facade. I wait for it to subside, but it doesn't. It grows. Someone starts chanting, "Let Lauren speak, let Lauren speak." Others pick it up. The hashtag becomes a rallying cry, a declaration that veterans will not be silenced by those who claim to protect them. Through the chaos, I spot Kyle pushing through the crowd toward an exit. His face is red, his carefully composed mask finally shattered. He doesn't look back. When the applause finally fades, I continue. The work we do at Phoenix Veterans Rehabilitation Center isn't about fixing broken soldiers. It's about helping whole people remember who they were before the world told them they were damaged. It's about giving back the voices that trauma tried to steal. I pick up the Crystal Award, feel its weight in my hands. This recognition isn't mine alone. It belongs to every veteran who chose healing over bitterness, who built something beautiful from their pain, who refused to let others define their worth. I look directly into the main camera, and it belongs to everyone who's ever been told they're too damaged to speak their own truth. You are not broken. Your story matters, and no one else has the right to tell it for you. The ovation that follows lasts 4 minutes and 37 seconds. I know because someone times it, posts it online, turns it into a moment that will outlive all of us. Later, when the ceremony ends and the crowd disperses, I stand alone on the White House lawn. The Crystal Award catches the afternoon light, casting small rainbows across the grass. My phone buzzes. A text from Williams. Watched the whole thing. Thank you for showing us what brave looks like. For the first time in 15 years, I believe I've earned the right to call myself that. Brave. The hallway inside the White House is quieter than the celebration continuing on the lawn. Marble floors reflect the soft lighting from crystal chandeliers. History whispers from every portrait, every doorway, every polished surface that's witnessed decades of decisions that shaped the world. I'm walking toward the exit, the crystal award tucked carefully in my bag, when I hear footsteps echoing behind me. Quick, determined steps that I recognize before I turn around. Kyle appears around the corner, slightly out of breath. His navy suit is wrinkled now, his perfect hair disheveled. The composed mask he wore for the cameras has completely fallen away, leaving something raw and desperate in its place. Lauren, wait. I stop walking, but don't turn around. Security will escort you out if they find you in here. I need to talk to you. No, you don't. Please. The word comes out broken, smaller than I've ever heard from him. Just give me 5 minutes. I turn slowly. He looks older than he did an hour ago. The confident man who positioned himself as my spokesperson has been replaced by someone who finally understands the weight of consequences. I didn't think it would go this far, he says. The words hang between us in the marble hallway. An admission wrapped in self-pity, responsibility diluted by surprise at being held accountable. You never thought I would matter, I reply. His face flinches like I've slapped him. That's not true. Isn't it? For 15 years you treated me like a footnote in your own story. Someone whose pain was material for your jokes, whose achievements were opportunities for your advancement. I was young. I didn't understand. You're 35 years old, Kyle. You weren't young when you sent those emails. You weren't young when you went on podcasts spreading lies about my mental health. You were a grown man making calculated choices. He leans against the wall, suddenly looking exhausted. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But can't we start over? Can't we try to fix this? The question reveals everything about how he sees the world. Problems can be fixed. Relationships can be reset. History can be rewritten with enough charm and effort. I stare at him for a long beat, studying the face that shares my DNA, but not my integrity. The eyes that watched me struggle and saw opportunity instead of pain. The mouth that spoke lies about my character while claiming to protect me. You didn't just lie about me, I say finally. You stole the silence I earned. His brow furrows, not understanding. My silence was my choice. It was how I survived, how I healed, how I built something meaningful from trauma. It was mine. And you took it from me, used it as evidence that I was broken, that I needed you to speak for me. I was trying to help, you were trying to control. There's a difference. The distinction lands hard. I watch recognition dawn in his expression, the understanding that his version of events has never matched reality. You don't get a new beginning, I continue. You don't get to say you're sorry and have me pretend the last 15 years didn't happen. You get to sit with what you did. You get to live with the knowledge that when your sister needed family support, you gave her cruelty. When she succeeded despite you, you tried to steal credit. When she finally found her voice, you tried to convince the world she didn't deserve one. Lauren, you get to explain to your children someday why their aunt doesn't come to family gatherings. You get to tell your wife why I won't be at your funeral. You get to carry the weight of knowing that you had a hero in your family and you spent years trying to convince her she was broken. His shoulders sag. The fight goes out of him all at once, like air from a punctured balloon. I'm sorry, he whispers. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo damage. It doesn't give me back the recognition you stole or the opportunities you redirected to yourself. It doesn't erase the lies you told about my character or the years you made me question my own worth. So that's it. We're done. We were done the first time you laughed at my scars. Everything since then has just been you refusing to accept reality. I adjust my bag on my shoulder, feeling the weight of the award inside it. Outside, I can hear the last of the ceremony, crowd dispersing, cars starting, voices fading, as people return to their lives, carrying the memory of today. The difference between us, I say, is that I spent 15 years trying to heal from trauma. You spent 15 years inflicting it. I walk toward the exit. Behind me, Kyle's voice calls out one more time. Will you ever forgive me? I pause at the doorway but don't turn around. Forgiveness isn't something you get to request. It's something I might choose to give, but either way it won't change what you are. I step through the doorway and into the late afternoon sunlight. Behind me, the marble hallway falls silent except for the echo of footsteps, his walking in the opposite direction. No shouting, No dramatic declarations, no movie moment confrontation. Just a man finally facing the consequences of choices he'd spent years pretending didn't matter. Just a woman walking away from a story that was never hers to carry alone. 3 months later, I drive through the familiar streets of my hometown, past the Dairy Queen where Kyle and I used to get ice cream after school, past the church where we attended Christmas services but never found much faith, past the cemetery where Dad rests under a simple granite stone that lists his service in Vietnam. Jefferson High School looks exactly the same. Red brick facade, tall windows that let in Texas sunlight, the circular drive where parents dropped off teenagers who thought they knew everything about the world. I park in the visitor lot and walk toward the main entrance. The November air carries the scent of burning leaves and possibility. Football season is over, but you can still smell the lingering excitement of Friday night lights and teenage dreams. Inside the hallways echo with the same sounds I remember. Locker doors slamming, sneakers squeaking on polished floors, voices calling out to friends between classes. The eternal rhythm of high school marking time in bells and birthdays and broken hearts. But something is different. Where the old trophy case used to stand, there's now a wall. Black granite polished to a mirror finish. At the top carved in elegant script, Jefferson High Military Honor Roll. Names are etched in the stone. Graduates who served in every conflict from World War II to Afghanistan. Each name accompanied by rank service branch and years of service. A permanent record of courage, sacrifice, and duty. My name is there now, etched clean, bold, permanent. Sergeant Lauren Brooks, U.S. Army 2004-2012, Courage Without Applause. The inscription below my name catches the hallway light, casting small shadows that make the letters seem to pulse with life. Someone chose those words carefully. Courage without applause. Recognition that the truest bravery often happens in silence, away from cameras and crowds. Ms. Brooks, I turn. A group of teenagers approaches wearing Army JROTC uniforms. 5 young people, maybe 16 or 17 years old. Their uniforms are crisp. They're bearing confident but respectful. We're the Jefferson High JROTC Color Guard, says a tall boy with serious eyes. Could we get a photo with you? Of course. We arrange ourselves in front of the honor wall. The photographer, another cadet, adjusts his phone. Camera checks the lighting. Normal teenage behavior wrapped in military discipline. As we pose, one of the girls leans slightly toward me. Her voice is quiet, meant only for my ears. They tried to write over your name, she whispers, but it's yours again now. The words hit me harder than I expect. This teenager understands something that took me decades to learn, that names can be erased but never truly destroyed. That truth has a weight that outlasts lies. I smile. Not the careful, controlled expression I've worn for cameras and ceremonies. A real smile, born from recognition that this moment standing in my old high school with young people who see military service as honorable rather than shameful is worth all the years of silence that led to it. The camera clicks. The moment is captured. After the cadets leave, I stand alone in front of the wall. Other names surround mine. Classmates I barely remember who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Teachers who were called to duty, a janitor who earned a Bronze Star in Vietnam, and never told anyone until his obituary revealed his heroism, stories that were always here, waiting to be told properly. My phone buzzes. A text from Williams. Starting college next month. Engineering major. Thank you for helping me remember that I'm more than what happened to me. Another text from Maria. 6 months walking without assistance. The impossible became possible because you showed me how. Messages like these arrive regularly now. Veterans from our program sharing milestones, victories, moments of joy they once thought were beyond reach. Evidence that silence can be transformed into something useful. That trauma can become the foundation for helping others heal. The irony isn't lost on me. Kyle spent years trying to erase my name from recognition. Now my name is carved in stone, permanent and public. He tried to convince the world I was too damaged to speak for myself. Now my voice reaches people I'll never meet, veterans who find hope in knowing that healing is possible. The honor wall reflects my image back to me. A woman in her 40s wearing jeans and a simple sweater. Nothing fancy or formal. Just someone who learned the difference between silence and surrender, between staying quiet and being silenced. Behind my reflection, I can see my name etched in granite, bold letters that declare my service, my courage, my right to be remembered on my own terms. I think about Kyle, probably sitting in his apartment in Austin, reading LinkedIn articles about crisis management and reputation repair, learning the hard way that some damage can't be undone with charm and careful messaging. I think about Mom, who calls every Sunday now, who asks about my work and actually listens to the answers, who's trying in her 70s to learn how to be the mother she should have been when it mattered most. But mostly I think about the woman I was in that kitchen 3 months ago, reaching for sugar while her brother mocked her scars, living invisible by choice, protecting herself through silence, building something meaningful in the shadows. She couldn't have imagined this moment, standing in her old high school name carved in stone story, finally told in her own voice. The late afternoon sun streams through the windows, illuminating the honor wall. My name catches the light, casting shadows that spell out truth in ways that can't be erased or rewritten. He laughed at my scars. Now the world sees what they really were. Proof that I endured. Evidence that I stayed. Marks of courage that no one else can claim or steal or redefine. And I didn't even have to raise my voice. Sometimes the loudest truth is the one that echoes in silence long after the noise has faded away.